All right, y'all, so we are out here where I've filmed, I think, 3 or 4 videos at this point in time, doing a walk around of either my truck or my old 4Runner. So I wanted to give you guys an update since I bought this truck a year and 3 months ago, a little over a year. Should have done it 3 months ago, but I was waiting on a bumper that actually never arrived. So I figured now is a good enough time to do it. Let's go ahead and start up on the front and do a little walk around of my 2018 double cab Tundra in quicksand tan. This is the TRD Pro grill. This is something that I picked up from running for tacos. This came in black and then I had it color matched to match the paint. So even though it's been painted to match, it is a 100% match on that quicksand tan. So this did have the TRD off-road grill with the little sombrero, the Toyota label. Now it has the Toyota in words there. So no updates on the bumper here. I bought a new bumper back in, say, 7 months ago now, and we're 7 months into an 11-week lead time. So in the fog lights, we have swapped out the old factory ones with these Morimoto lights. These are the 4-bangers. They have 3 pretty bright lights here. Now, I will say the only downside to these lights is that they are so bright. I mean, these technically are DOT approved, but they are so bright that I typically don't drive with them on if I'm in the city because I just feel bad. But they are super bright, and to be honest with you, if you're looking at one kind of light to upgrade, the fog lights is probably it, because this plugs directly into factory one, so you can just change this light on the stock. No updates on the regular light there, but we do have these Morimoto 2-bangers. These are on the Morimoto bracket, and I'll show you how it's actually all wired here in a second, but these are the Morimoto 2-bangers. So I do have these firing separately, so the left and the right fire separately. So the reason I like to do that, even though I really don't see anyone else doing it, is because if I'm driving down the highway and it's really bad weather, or if I'm just worried about deer in the area, then I can just turn on the passenger side, shine it into a ditch, and not worry about oncoming traffic, as the left one will be firing kind of right into people's eyes. I did swap out from factory this, but that was the exact first mod I did about a year ago. This actually came with a full-on, one of those old school antennas. The shorter one is just a little bit more durable, and it's just not in the way. I like the way it looks a little bit better. So if you've seen my other walkarounds, you know that I blacked out the badges, putting a little protective thing over top of it, and it just sticks on there with some 3M. All right, so my truck's a little bit of a mess right now, but I did want to show you one thing I've done since last time. You can get yourself some regular steps. This one came with steps, but I did swap out and get these Amp Research. So these steps will pop down and fold up when I close this. I really do like that because this is a really tall vehicle and a lot of people have trouble getting in and out of there, but I didn't want something hanging down super low. There's just not a lot of companies that make sliders for the Tundra. In fact, there's just not a lot of companies that make anything for the Tundra. This has actually been one of the harder builds to do because sourcing anything is just time consuming, expensive. And if I went to something like a GX like I had originally wanted to do, I probably would have had an easier time. The 4Runner was really easy as well, but I digress. Anyway, the steps are really great. I love how they are integrated in there. They do have lights that come down, so it's really nice at night to be able to step in there. All right, so I'm not big on washing my vehicle, but I'll go ahead and show you my dirty rack up here and all that. It did snow recently, so there's probably some salt and stuff up here. Probably should wash it. Again, this is the up top Zulu rack. This is my favorite rack in terms of aesthetics, as well as just functionality. This is super modular, and it's got the grab handles. It's got 1, 2, 3 on this side, and then 3 on the other side as well. Up front, we've got more Morimotos. These are 7 big bangers. So in total, we have 2 4-bangers in the fogs. We've got 2 2-bangers on the A-pillar, and we've got 7 big bangers up here. This is by far the most amount of light I've ever had on my vehicles. My 4Runner has some Diode Dynamics ones that were pretty comparable. However, I wanted to try these out because these are the 6-inch ones, so they're a little bit brighter. I didn't see anyone else running them, and I love running things that not everybody else is running, so that's why I went with the Morimotos. So I did 2 on the outsides of each side. So 1, 2, 3, 4 on the other side over there. Those are going to be flood beams. And then in the middle, I have 3 spotlights. So I'm going to get a very bright direct light. Really nice for going fast off-road because you can see way down the road. And then the flood is just going to give you a nice beam. Truck pretty much has everything covered that you would want to have covered. Got everything going out that direction out there, as bright as you can down the road, and then some other lights for the side that I'll talk about now. So right here, directly behind me, you will see these up top lights. I think these are called rack lights, but they're essentially just rock lights that go in your rack. If you don't get these lights, you'll just have a blank bracket there, and you can, I guess, potentially add those later if you'd like. So they're going to be in white and amber, and I have, I think, 4 on this side and 4 on the other. This is going to be great for camping because it puts out a beam that's going to cover everything from in front of me back to like here. All the light up front, all the light on the side, and now that I have a new product from FSR, I do have light out the back as well. So this thing is perfect for camping because you've got 360 lighting all over this thing. So like I said, I do have the up top Zulu rack. It's got the handles. It's got this really nice sloping lines to it, so it's going to match the style of the truck. On the top, you're going to have the extrusion bars. If you get the Kilo, which is kind of like this, but a little bit cheaper, the only difference between that one is it's going to be a little bit lighter weight. It's not going to have this secondary panel that you can color match here. And then up top, you get the extrusions on there rather than the panels, 2, 3, 4 feet on there. And since this is a Tundra, you will have to drill those out. So I have added action tracks. It's got the sharper edges to it. It was the same price, but it does have the Max Trax mounts on it, and it is locked on there. Now, I'm not sure if you can see it down there, but that is going to be the up top mount for the action tracks, the Max Trax, or potentially whatever else company you might be able to use. So that's pretty much everything up here. I've got the cab rack as well as the topper rack. This is also going to be the Zulu. You can see the wiring smoothly goes from one to the other. You've got 2 more lights back here. Up on top of that, let's get to the other side for this one because this is the back side of it. So this is the FSR Odyssey. I'm just going to have to overlay some footage on there because it's not, particularly exciting to look at when it's closed, but is going to have extrusions on the side so you can mount stuff on top of it. So it's going to be pretty much blacked out. It's really nice. It's probably the best tent I have owned so far. I love the way it opens. It kind of opens like, let's say, the iCamper one, but iCamper doesn't have the extrusion, so I really like that. So it's also going to come stock with an inflatable mattress, which I don't think any company does at this point. You may be able to get an upgraded version that does that on some tent companies, but FSR does come with that. Now, this was on the back and the front, but since I have something else back there, I just went ahead and put mine on the side. They do have the green one here, but I do believe that up top is coming out with a color match one, so that'll be really cool when that comes out. Maybe I'll get one in quicksand tan. Now, if you want to see a full video on this, I will put that below, but this is by far my favorite one. I do think they have more popular tents, Aspen Light, which I think is one of the most popular ones, and also the Aspen V2. You can see how much of the roof it takes up. This is, a really long roof line, whereas like if you had a 4Runner or something like that, maybe a GX, a Tacoma, it would be a little bit shorter. And I've got a ton of space, even though this is the double cab and not the Crew Max. So the double cab has a smaller back seat, whereas the Crew Max might come out to like here. It's super long, and the reason I went with this instead of the Crew was because I originally was sleeping in the truck bed, ended up giving up and going back to the rooftop tent because I just prefer that so much better. But I really love the way this is on the roof line, and I think it fits perfectly. It is even, pretty narrow compared to my really wide truck, so it fits almost flush with it. And that leads me back to the back, which is the newest thing on my truck, and that is a brand new product from FSR, and that is the FSR Tailgater. It is essentially going to be awesome for camping because it's going to be a 180, and it's going to cover the entire back of the truck here. So when I'm camping out of the back, or, even just like cooking back here, this will go up, but since it's narrow, I try to add these to keep water out of the back. There's just no topper that really does that in a good way. So I would always get a little bit of water inside if this was opened. So the tailgate pretty much solves all of that problem. When this opens up, this top part goes back. So it goes all the way back to the back and it blocks water from getting in there. That's like here, I think, somewhere in here. And it's going to cover that entire space because when I open this up, I'll cook out of the back. It is completely covered and it does have integrated lights. So it's going to basically hold down, even if you got tons of wind, it doesn't need the legs or anything like that. I did want to go with a 270 originally because that would cover the most amount of space. However, I have gotten pretty close to maxing out the weight capacity of this topper because up here we do have a 40 to 50 pound rack with the lights, all of that. Then we do have a 135 pound tent, 30 something pound this awning. And while that's not an excessive amount of weight, the topper could easily handle more. However, I do off-road it, so I don't know if the weight ratings on fiberglass toppers or any toppers in general account for off-roading, so I just like to play it safe and kind of keep it in a lower capacity. So apologies for how messy it is back here. I am using this like a work truck right now. On the back here, we have the Billy Bars tailgater. Not much to say about this. It has 2 cup holders, and I love using this to kind of put stuff on top of and cook. And if I do camp inside, I can pull this from the inside. So this is the fiberglass topper. It does have the carpet. This one is a wind door, so that opens. You can see those right there. That'll open up. This side does not. If I was doing this again, I would have gotten 2 wind doors, but I wanted to test it out and see which was better. So this one is just a window that slides, and it is pretty big and it's nice, but I just love having that wind door to, open things up. Now, it did take quite a bit of work to get this completely sealed. I got some grommets in here. In the back, you might not be able to see it, but I did some expanding foam. I did seal in the corners down there and back in there. When it comes from the factory, you want the water to actually be able to drain. I don't want that because I have a fully enclosed topper, so I sealed that up. So along with that, we have got some of these to seal up the back, and that's just going to keep dust from getting in there. These notoriously have very large gaps, so I went ahead and put that in there. And then I have some on the back so that when this closes, everything is completely sealed up and nothing's getting inside. No dust, no rain, nothing like that, no snow. All right, so down at the bottom, we have put a shim to push this bumper just a little bit forward to give me that clearance. These tires do not rub at all. These are 35s and they do not rub. I could potentially go 37s, but I would need another bumper at that point just to give me all of that clearance. I've taken out the plastic back here, which is, some people might not like that. I don't really care, so not a big issue to me, but I just didn't want it to rub, so I went ahead and took that out. In the wheel well, this is by far the best suspension I have ever had. This is the Dirt King 2.5. We've got the UCA, we have got the coilover, and this is a remote reservoir. So you'll see up on the front, there is the actual remote reservoir. I have an article if you want to know how to install this and look at a review. I've actually got 2 articles if you want to read more about this, but this is an amazing setup. It is the smoothest ride I've ever had. Super quiet, but man, is this thing expensive. We're talking $4,600 on this, which, comparable to like a King suspension or like a nice high-end Icon or something like that isn't too bad, but I usually run a little bit more of a budget suspension. So back here we do have the Running for Tacos body mount chop. So traditionally this came out to, I guess like here, this body mount chop is just going to cut off the unnecessary bits, but it is a really clean, nice setup. The welds are really good. That is Running for Tacos. So hit them up. They are here in Colorado. All of the work that I've had done on my truck has either been up top or Running for Tacos. That is the only 2 people I've let touch this truck, other than Super Truck USA that did my steps there. That's pretty much the only people I've let touch my truck so far. SSW or Summit, as it says right there, this is the Apex wheel. Unfortunately, they just discontinued this, as I do think it is the most aesthetic wheel on the market for the Tundra. So that is a 17x9 by 0 offset. And if you're a Tacoma guy or a 4Runner guy, you'll think a 0 offset isn't that much, but on the Tundras, that is quite a bit. I had negative 38 on my Forerunner, and the poke was about what the 0 is on here. And wrapped around that is going to be a 35 by 12.5 by 17 Nitto Ridge grapplers. So I have 5 of these. I actually do have a full-size spare. The full-size spare does fit on the Tundra if you get 35s. However, you have to cut a little bracket to make it fit. But these are an amazing tire. I have a full video review on this as well if you want to check that out. But I love these tires. I had the same ones, but 305 7017, so a little bit smaller on my Forerunner. However, the 305 7017 looks massive on the Forerunner, whereas 35s looks kind of small on the Tundra. You can see even with the 0 offset, the 35 by 12.5 inches sticks out quite a bit, and it does look really massive. However, sometimes on camera, these look really small. Same setup back here, same tires, same wheels, and the same suspension. We've got the remote reservoir in the rear, the Dirt King as well, and then we did an add-a-leaf on the leaf spring. That is the full-size spare underneath there. We also cut the exhaust. That is where it dumps out right there, so you can see it doesn't hang down. You're not going to run into any issues where the exhaust is going to get hung up. But yeah, that's the full-size spare down there. And unfortunately, because of an ordering issue, I have a Recon grappler 357017 down there instead of a Ridge grappler. So also back here we have the Morimoto tail lights. These are beautiful. I love these taillights. I'll show you what they look like because I would have to cut the engine on to do that, and I would just be breathing in exhaust, and you might not be able to hear me. A lot of people like the blackout ones a little bit better. That's more popular, but I just like the burgundy because I'm kind of more of like an OEM Plus kind of guy, so I just preferred that one, and I think it looks great, and it matches the colors of the truck. All right, so checking inside of the engine bay, we've got the super clean setup. This is my wiring here. So up top, Overland did this wiring setup, and it's on a Running for Tacos mount. I don't know if this is out yet, but this is their mount. This is Morimoto, so this is kind of the control module here, but you've also got the 2 Garmin power switches because I have a lot of different lighting. You know, like I said, I went 1, 2, I've got 1 for the flood, 1 for the spot, 1 for low backlighting, 1 for regular backlighting there. Then I've got all of the camp lighting, so I definitely needed to have 2 of these, but there are still some on here that aren't used, and I love this setup. It is by far my favorite. I love this because it doesn't pierce the firewall, and it works with an app, so you can kind of see as I press buttons, they turn on the on there, so it's really cool that you can do that with your phone, but you can also do it if you have Apple CarPlay. So I'll talk a little bit about the Apple CarPlay in a second. This bracket is attached to it, but the wire just runs right down there and then up through here. But I love how clean this setup is. Everything on here I have done from years of experience on the builds. I've basically made what I think is the best, cleanest setup. Also just clean on the aesthetic, clean on the lines, and everything I think is potentially the brightest. I've anecdotally compared this to Baja Designs, and I think it's brighter. But you can also look at videos from companies like Headlight Revolution, I believe, and they've tested these up against the Baja Designs, and they did win. All right, and right before we check out the inside, I just want to mention I always do this on all of my vehicles because you'll be able to see all of this over here. You have no blind spot. So I definitely recommend picking up one of these, and it's like $3. It's really not an issue, and it doesn't mess with the sensors or anything like that. So down below, we have the Desert Does It panel. This is essentially a MOLLE panel that attaches to the bottom, and you can mount stuff that I'm not going to show on camera here, but you're going to be able to mount one of these guys over here. And then it's got magnets, it's got all kinds of stuff. This is a super easy install. Keep my knives and my multi-tools, which I don't see my multi-tool on here right now. It must be at my house, and flashlights, stuff like that. Like I said, you can mount a holster there. That way you can mount a remote hole punch in there. Use that when you need to grab it. So something I can't show you on here because it's behind here, but we do have a remote start, and we are going to remote start that in order to get to the next thing, which is going to be the head unit. So we do have this Deseta head unit. This is the G13. It looks like it was made to be in there. It fits the exact lines perfectly. And now that it's actually gotten a little bit dustier, it kind of looks like it's stock. I can pull up ways. I can pull up, you know, I've got my messages here, podcasts, I've got Spotify, I've got my power switch, which is that Garmin power switch. And if I want to change my lights here, I can turn them on like that. It's got my, mixes, it's got my recently played, all of that. So I don't even have to mess with my phone. That is really nice. As I'm sitting here editing, I realized that I didn't give you guys a proper breakdown of what everything cost. The Tundra itself, I think I paid $35,000 for it. I think that came out to just under 40 with taxes and all that. The rack, the topper, the lights, the suspension, the wheels, tires, everything added up, not including labor, which is thousands of dollars, and you end up with $26,500 on top of the $39,000 that the truck cost. Now I'm sure I missed some stuff here and there, like I'm already remembering that I didn't add in the action tracks and the action tracks mount, probably $500 there. I'm sure there's something I missed on there, little things that maybe cost $50 here, $70 here. So $27,000. That is an absurd amount of money, and I do not recommend anybody spending that kind of money. I went with the double cab because I wanted to sleep in the back. Most people are probably going to get the Crew Max, and there is a lot more parts and modifications for the Crew Max. Not as many people do this one, so a little bit more difficult to find parts for it. And that is sort of a part about the Tundra that I actually don't like, is that there's just not a lot of modifications out there. I'm starting to see more and more people get these second-gen Tundras, but the aftermarket is just not there for it. And in saying that, I am kind of at a crossroads right now where I've got a bunch of money tied up in this thing, and they don't really seem to be too popular. More people were interested when I had the 4Runner. So I'm kind of at a point where I'm trying to decide if I keep the Tundra, do I get a 4Runner, or do I go out and get a GX470? A couple years back, I was looking at a GX470 and I just ended up not doing that. And then I got this. And so I'm at the point where I'm trying to decide if I want to keep this. It's just a lot of money being tied up. I'm not one of those big YouTubers with 10 trucks and, millions of dollars. I don't have that kind of money to have things tied up. So I'd love you guys to comment below if you think I should hang on to this, keep it, and continue building it. Or would you guys like to see a GX470 or maybe an older 4Runner on the channel? Because even though I've built an expensive truck here, I'm actually not the kind of guy that loves expensive trucks. Maybe I'll end up keeping the truck because I love this. It's probably my favorite truck I've ever had. So we're talking a 40-something thousand dollar truck plus $22,000. I don't know that I could replace all that if I had to. That being said, please like the video if you like this video, subscribe if you like what I'm doing, and I'll see you guys in the next video.